What's good, you guys? Daniel Cruz here, back with another episode of Cook with Cruz. Another Sunday, another breakdown, and today we had a suggestion by Dan Johnson referring to my Out of Control beat that I actually just dropped this past Tuesday. So it's a pretty new beat. Maybe you've already heard it already, but if not, you'll be hearing it today, and it's a really dope, smooth R&B vibe here. So we'll be getting into all the details on Out of Control today. Before we get into it, you already know, please leave a like on the video, greatly appreciated, and it helps keep these videos going every single Sunday. So thank you guys for leaving a thumbs up on the video, I appreciate it. And of course, subscribe if you're not already. But without further ado, let's jump in and see how Out of Control was made. So getting right into it, we're going to be using a sample from AB. Big shout out to AB for the sample. We've been working for a minute now. But let's go ahead and check out the raw composition so we can all hear what I heard when I first came across it. So those are some big time vibes right there. A lot of stuff going on. All super dope. I guess the biggest thing that caught my ear on this was the chord progression. It's a real nice, super clean progression, and we'll kind of get into that later in the video. So as far as what I did to the sample, first up, we're gonna have the file. So I'm gonna be able to kind of thin out a lot of sections to create a verse and everything, and just kind of arrange all the instruments how I feel it will best sound. Two, I kept the sample in key. I think I might have experimented it a little bit, but just the overall kind of sound of what the key is right now sounds good. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And then three, I did speed it up a little bit. We were at 116 on the original, and I bumped it up to 120. So just slightly faster there, but definitely in R&B range still. So if we go into our playlist here, this is what we're working with. Again, this might look a little complicated, but this whole section right here is a sample, just broken down into its files. And then I came in right here with some extra keys, some drums, which we'll go over. But starting the beat off, we're gonna keep it nice and simple for the intro. We had a nice textured drum loop here that's gonna sit in the background. Here is basically our main instrument. Our main chords right here is this pad, and then we're gonna have the vocal sample sit in the background here to add a nice layer. So keeping it real simple, thinning out the instrument, structuring it out. Here's how the beat's gonna start off. So there it is right there, a lot of space, nice and simple. And then next up, we're going to drop into what I structured as the start of the verse. So looking into the playlist as far as our instruments, our pad is still gonna be here, but this one is a little different. It's more sustained out on the chords, whereas this intro one, you can actually visually see it cuts out a little bit. So we're just basically sustaining our chords here on the pad, nothing too crazy. Our little drum loop texture here is gonna stay. Vocal chop here, staying. And then right here, I actually kept the bass that was in the sample. A lot of samples that I work with, especially if you watching the episodes, I usually always take the bass out because I always want to change it, but this bass actually sounded really dope and vibed really well with everything. So I kept his bass in there. It worked perfectly. And then we're gonna have this sign track here, which is basically another pad that's going to layer with our main pad here, and he has it cut out a little bit, which is actually perfect. I would have done the exact same thing here. So as far as our instruments go on when the verse comes in, this is what it's going to sound like. So that's what we're going to be working with as far as our verse is going to go. Still keeping it nice and open, nothing too crazy going on. So next up, we needed to add some drums that are going to vibe well with our instruments here. So sound selection on our drums and just the bounce we're going to have is going to be super important. Don't want to mess up a dope sample here. So let's go ahead and go over the drums now and see what we did. We'll go ahead and start off with our closed hat right here. Here's going to be our open hat to go with that. Here's our clap to get our rhythm going. You can see we did add a little reverb. A real simple crash here to start it off on the downbeat. Here's our kick drum pattern. And I threw in a little shaker here to add some percussion. So now into the playlist for our drums. We have this audio clip right here. I'm basically going to be using this as like a percussion texture background for our drums. This is actually that same percussion loop that was used in that super big Drake song. I can't think of it on the top of my head right now, but I'm going to go ahead and play it right now and you'll understand what I'm talking about. So remind me in the comments what Drake song that is. I just can't think of it right now. But this percussion in general is just super dope to just throw behind some drums. I've used this in a couple other beats too, just to sit in the background on the drums. It's just gonna add a nice feel there. So overall, our drums, this is what they're all gonna sound like together. So there goes all our drums right there. But if we go back into the beginning of our verse here, they're all not going to come in like that. I definitely want to gradually build them up. Coming back to the beginning of the beat here, we're just going to have our little Drake percussion here. And then basically our drums without the kick and the shaker. That's how we're going to start off. And if you look at our closed hat, I do cut some parts out to kind of thin out the beat here, and then as we progress in the verse, that's when I'll bring the closed hat all the way in. But anyways, let's see how it comes in on the verse now. And now progressing in our verse here to add kind of a change up here, or essentially add more to the beats without overfilling it. You can take this for your beats to just visually looking at the playlist. So we're gonna cut out basically our main pad here and keep the sign pad. That's going to thin out the beat a little more. In addition to that, we're going to bring in our kick and shaker. So because the beat already sounded good from what I just played, and I don't want to overdo it, but still add a change up. If I'm going to add something, I'm going to take something out. So again, adding our kick and shaker now to kind of fill out the drums here, get the vibe going, and at the same time taking out our little Drake percussion and our pad here. So this is going to give us a nice little change up while still remaining a good balance in the beat here. So you can hear just right there, still sounds pretty good even with the change up. So moving on to the next section here, this is basically what I'm going to be using as a pre-hook. So this section is going to be a little full as far as the instruments go, but we'll keep our sign pad, our little drum loop here. We're going to add these two clips right here, which is basically a guitar lead. This clip right here, I believe, is the dry lead, and this one is the reverberated effects. So these two are basically one instrument. I'm just adding the reverb track here to create some ambience to it. And we're gonna have a new instrument here. This is kind of like a weird synth lead. Sounds pretty cool, kept it in there. But just so we don't get overwhelmed, let's listen to just this part right here. And so the next thing I'm going to add here, I'm going to throw in my own chords here, basically just layering up what the chords already are. And of course we are in Omnisphere with the monophonic filter taps preset into the mixer. All we really added to it was some reverb. Other than that, kept it the same. But this is just gonna add an additional subtle layer to the chords, which is gonna sound a little like this. So as you can hear there, it's not like a super heavy pad or anything. Basically almost like some plucks just going on in the background. So that's just gonna add a nice touch to all the instruments we have. And the last thing for the pre-hook, we're gonna add some bass. This time it's gonna be our own bass. So we're an Omnisphere Green Taurus bass, one of my favorite presets. Nothing crazy, just playing out the root notes on the chords. So now, altogether, this is what the pre-hook's gonna be. So there that goes, and then after that, of course, we're gonna drop into the hook of the beat here. So let's take a look at how we structured this out. So our bass stab is gonna come back. I don't want the sustain bass I added, it's just gonna be too much. The bass stab gives room in the beat, and we want room for the hook here. Other than that, we're gonna cut out our guitar lead. That's just gonna be too much, especially if there's a singer on this. We want the melody from the singer to kind of fill in this space right here. Our background vocal chop is coming back in just to sit there. We'll keep our pluck keypad here that I played, and this is where all of our drums play at once, which is the little Drake loop plus, you know, everything we already went over. So let's go ahead and see how we drop into the hook. So there goes, there is the hook, and then after that it's basically a rinse and repeat into our second verse now. So there it is right there. That is out of control, broken down in detail for you guys. Shout out to AB again for the dope sample. But I hope you guys enjoyed the beat if it was your first time hearing it. Nonetheless, hope you enjoy the breakdown. If you did, please leave a thumbs up if you haven't already. I greatly appreciate that. Keep hitting me up in the comments with other beats you want to see me breaking down. Feel free to just browse through my channel or my website, whatever. Got a ton of beats there. If anything catches your ear, just let me know and I'll do an episode on that. So be sure to hit me up in the comments. But other than that, that is all for me today, guys. Make sure you're subscribed. I'll be back next Sunday. See you guys next week. I'm out. Peace.